Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Citizen Assembly Women, a group of women here coming together to authentically to empower and encourage one another. We will continue now with introductions. Everyone give your name, where you are and or where you're from, and 2 words to describe yourself in this moment. So I'll start out. My name is Lois Diggs, and I currently live in Virginia, but I've moved around a lot in my life, and I am at this moment in Bensenville, Illinois. And 2 words to describe myself at this moment are energized and focused. I think it's usually something like that. All right, so I'll pass it to Kay. Kay, would you introduce yourself, please?
Definitely. Hello, everyone. My name is Kay. I am currently in San Jose, California, and 2 words to describe me are excited and looking forward to today's topic, and grateful. I have been grateful for just technology for these meetings to take place. Thanks. And handing it over to Stacy.
Hi, I'm Stacy Gustafson. I split my time between Northern Michigan and Southwest Texas. And 2 words to describe me today are very interested in the topic. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Stacy. I like it when the 2 words are used in a clever way. Very interested. All right. And Kat just joined us. So Kat, if you would like to introduce yourself, your name, where you are and or where you're from, and 2 words to describe yourself in this moment.
You're muted.
And if your mic's not working, you can write something in the chat and can read it for everyone here. But before we continue, you haven't been here in a while, just there have been a little, some changes. One of them is that comments are now, there's a time limit for 3 minutes. And then there's a little music that plays, and then you have 20 seconds to wrap up your comment. Just because some people were going for a long time, you know, this is to encourage conciseness in commenting and ability for everyone to share their words. Oh, hi, Kat. Did you want to give your introduction, or you don't have to if you don't want to? You're muted, we can't hear you.
I'm Kathleen Newman. I'm in the UK, in Stockport. I'm glad to be here today. And I can't think of anything else to say.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Kat. So without, let me mute you for a second. There's background noise. Okay, so without further ado, let's continue to the presentation of the idea for today, which is the decriminalizing of prostitution. So share my screen here. Okay. Prostitution should not be criminalized. The Nordic model is the method shown to have the best outcomes. Human Rights Watch has stated that criminalization exposes sex workers to abuse and exploitation by law enforcement officials such as police officers. Human Rights Watch has documented that in criminalized environments, police officers harass sex workers, extort bribes, and physically and verbally abuse sex workers, or even rape or coerce sex from them. Human Rights Watch has documented that in criminalized environments, police officers harass sex workers, extort bribes, and physically and verbally abuse sex workers, or even, sorry, there's a repetition there. But anyway, there are bad things that happen when sex work is criminalized like this. According to a 2012 report, sex workers are reluctant to carry condoms on them because police and prosecutors have used possession of condoms as evidence for prostitution charges. Therefore, they are at heightened risk for contracting a sexually transmitted infection or disease. However, full legalization of prostitution is not an ideal solution either. Attempts to regulate prostitution have failed and adherence is low. Rather than simply driving human trafficking above ground, where it can be seen and prosecuted, multiple studies have shown that legalization of prostitution leads to increased human trafficking, likely due to an expanded market and fewer legal hurdles. Brothels can function as legalized outlets for victims of sex trafficking. Germany and the Netherlands are considering repealing their legalization of prostitution because of these and other problems. In reality, the women who are prostitutes by choice are a tiny percentage. Prostitution is the #1 profession in the world in which women are most likely to be murdered. According to data published by Nordic Model Now, of prostitutes surveyed, 50% are homeless, 50% were coerced into the profession, 64% have been threatened with violence, 73% have been physically assaulted, and 57% have been raped. Only 13% of prostitutes surveyed reported no violence. 89% would quit the industry if they could. And in just Nevada, where prostitution is legal, 81% would quit the industry if possible. The Nordic model of decriminalizing prostitution was pioneered in Sweden after extensive research. Under this system, buyers and punters remain criminal offenders, whereas prostitutes receive harm reduction and support services, including housing, legal advice, addiction services, long-term emotional and psychological support, education, and training and childcare, so they are equipped to exit. This method has resulted in the curtailing of human trafficking, a reduction of women needing to resort to prostitution, and a lessening of violent crimes directed against them. After Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Northern Ireland, Canada, France, Ireland, and Israel have adopted this method, more nations should follow their example. Down here is the bibliography. All right, so that was a little bit long. So just in summary, the idea is that, so prostitution should not be criminalized, but it should also not be legalized because both of those have ended up in problems. Rather, the buyers and hunters of prostitution should be criminalized, but the prostitutes themselves should receive high quality services like help for emotions and psychology, addictions, housing, food, things like that to help them exit, to help them be able to do that. All right, so we can measure, now we're going to move into the vote for yes or no with whether this sounds like a good idea. So if you do think that overall this sounds like a good idea, click on at the bottom of your Zoom screen, reactions. There should be a green check mark to vote yes, or a red X to vote no. So if you can click down there and make your selection. Or if the buttons are not visible, you can type yes or no in the chat. Or you can abstain from voting. So it looks like right now we have 3 yes and 1 abstain. All right, you can remove your vote now. Thank you. So we're going to move into discussion, questions, comments. All right. Okay, Kat just voted yes. Stacy, you're up first.
So we have unanimous, so that's great. I wanted to say prostitution shouldn't even exist, but since it certainly does, and it's going to for a while, I really, really enjoyed the work that you put into that. I had no idea that there was something other than illegal or legal, and that the human trafficking is worse when it's legalized. I'm shocked. I guess I can see why, and definitely you need to take care of that. And so if they have found that your suggestion has worked, I am all for it. And then the idea that the prostitutes under your plan get these support services, that should be given to everyone at birth. Why do you only get that when you end up in this horrible situation? We wouldn't have these horrible situations if we all had our needs met and support and connection at birth. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. I'll go next. So I would like to say that I was, at the beginning of my research, my position was that prostitution should be legalized because I thought that that would decrease sex trafficking, you know? But I found out that's not the case, and which was surprising to me. And I also thought that it would make life better for the people in that line of work. But from what I've read, it's really not the case, that even when prostitution is legalized, violence continues, abuse continues, the stigma and judgment continues. So anyway, I was very surprised to find those things as well. But what you said, Stacy, about having those kinds of services from birth, I think that's really interesting. I think, yeah, of course, everyone should have people who are supportive emotionally and intellectually and needs like food, medical care, things like that. You're right. Maybe you have an idea like that you can present next time, something related to that. I'd like to hear more about it. All right. Are there any other questions or comments on this?
I had one, but then it just slipped my mind. I wonder, have any of us known anybody who was in the profession?
I knew a girl who danced, and she made quite a bit of money. She paid off her house. She paid off her, this was like when I was going to university, and she said I should start doing it. And I was kind of enticed because she said she had made enough money to pay off her house, to get a house, pay it off, and also put herself through school. And I was really struggling paying for school on my own. My parents weren't helping me, and I wasn't taking out huge loans. So I can see how people get enticed into the business, and oftentimes if you do things like dancing, or then you get into drugs, and then you get into like prostitution, you know. So it's like steps that lead eventually to prostitution. So I said no, but I think I mainly said no because I was too shy, and I didn't know what kind of, I mean, I just didn't like the thought of old men looking at my young body, you know. It sort of freaked me out, but but it was enticing. The money part of it was enticing.
I also knew a dancer. It was the exact same story, Kat. The amount of money that they can make and like buy a house. And it certainly can lead to more.
So I also know a dancer, and dancing is a type of sex work, but it's very different from prostitution. And she enjoys it. She's happy. You know, like, you know, we're friends, and you know, she does that. She's happy. She's satisfied. I just wouldn't do that. But you know, what I'm saying is that it's very different from prostitution. I know there is a movement to call prostitution sex work because the word prostitution like has bad connotations, but I say prostitution because I want to specify a specific type of job instead of like dancing or being a pornography actor, you know, which are different and legal, you know. Stacy.
I just realized that I actually do know an LGBTQ sex worker who does it for the pleasure of it. And they have a very good attitude towards it. They say that they are very helpful and supportive towards the people that come to them. And it sounds like it can be a great experience for all involved. On the other hand, I have also heard that prostitution, or that word, that idea, doesn't even exist or didn't exist in indigenous societies. And I hope the world can make it to a place where that's true again. Thanks.
So, Stacy, I'm curious, that word did not exist in indigenous societies. Was there a different word for it, or was that thing just not a thing?
It was not a thing.
Okay.
It appeared, the literature that I've read, I've got no cites, were that it was brought by colonizers, settlers.
Okay. I wish I knew more to comment on it, but that is, I'll just say that that's interesting. But I think earlier, Stacey, you said that you wish that prostitution did not exist, but it does. Do you think that it's possible that it won't exist at some point? I mean, like in our culture?
I think that what it would take for it to not exist is for all of people's needs to be met. And then it could be voluntary therapeutic work. And then would you call it prostitution? I don't think so. I think it's a very different thing.
Therapeutic work. So what do you mean by that?
If a couple or a person either has no experience or they have issues, then there are people who are experts in the physical part of sex, and they will be very, very similar to a counselor, a psychologist, and teach the people hands-on what would be more beneficial sex practices or how to overcome issues. And it is for that purpose, and it is paid.
I see.
But the professionals who do that, they have their ethic, hopefully they have their ethics in place, that there are rules and boundaries so that it remains a healthy relationship between the therapeutic counselor and the person who is coming to them.
Okay, I see. So that works very well for couples, but there are some people who just cannot get a date, you know, and are frustrated and sometimes do like violent things, or, you know, hire somebody to meet their needs. There is an idea on Agora to have prostitutes for people who can't meet their need in this way, in the standard kind of way. What are there, so that's the general idea. I can try pulling it up in a minute, but are there any comments on or responses to that idea? Stacy?
Are you talking about the incel idea, the young men? That was my idea, and taken from a very misogynistic article written by an incel. Incel is involuntary celibate. It actually started, the movement started, my understanding from reading articles, with female involuntary celibates. They may have been unattractive or had a physical issue. And the idea generally is that, well, if you're a woman and your equipment works, that you can find somebody who will have sex with you. But they were finding that this was not true. Well, then the movement was taken over by male involuntary celibates. And much of the literature that I have seen is extremely, extremely misogynistic and saying horrible things about women, and even in the recommendation that sex work be offered to young men for free so that they don't go violent and take a gun and kill everybody. They were saying these whores, they used the word whore so many times, it was amazing. The whores should rock the man's world, or she will get low reviews and kicked the heck out. So those are some ideas along that line.
All right. So since we have more time, and since this idea is related, is it all right with you, Stacy, if we read that idea and comment and discuss on that one too today?
Absolutely. It's a little bit of a long idea. You might want to skim it.
All right. I have the idea on my screen right now, and I can share it. Since it's your idea, Stacy, would you like to read it or skim it for us?
Absolutely.
Okay, just a minute. Let me share my screen.
Kat has her, oh, is that your hand up, Kat? Or that's left from the vote, never mind. So the excerpts from the following article are offered as evidence for the complete idea outlined here. The views in the article do not necessarily represent the views of Igor or those discussing it. I was introduced to the topic of involuntary celibates by this article and was inspired to do some problem solving. Here's an excerpt from the article. A few excerpts. Some text has been left out for brevity. So the busy bees of the media have been highlighting how dangerous incels are, often linking them to the manosphere. These journalists fail to mention that incels have either outright rejected manosphere ideas, especially when concerning game, or have been inoculated against its teachings by their own media colleagues. Incels are killing solely because they are failing to bond romantically or sexually with women in an intensely competitive sexual market that constantly rubs sex and nudity in their faces. The solution is rather simple. Give them free sex from whores. It's first helpful to determine the basic profile of an incel. Typically, he does not have a hands-on masculine father teaching him the ways of life and women. He was teased in school, though not aggressively bullied, and has few friends. He is not good in sports or any other activity that would help him give him a sexy aesthetic. He has no skills beyond programming or playing video games. His educational upbringing taught him that any display of masculine behavior is harmful to females, which he has internalized to his own detriment. More severely, he is introverted and has practically no ability to talk to females or attract them. An incel primarily wants a loving relationship with an attractive woman. Secondly, he wants sex with any woman. A male who gets laid but doesn't experience love may be depressed or unhappy, but he's unlikely to possess the urge to kill. The ones who do end up killing have received neither relationships nor sex. They feel utterly forsaken by society. To remind society that they do in fact exist, they resort to getting attention in the only way they know how, killing. Shooting up people is the same for an incel as a female uploading a perfect selfie. It's a way of saying, please recognize my existence and validate me for it. I therefore advocate for a government program called Complementary Heterosexual Affections Directive, or CHAD. Incels will be given a mobile QR code for a complimentary legalized sex session every 6 months, a time interval that would outright eliminate their urge to kill. The whores that are part of this program would be given special training to make the incels feel special by calling them handsome, powerful, and confident, compliments they have never heard in their lives. The whores would rock their worlds to such an extent that the incels would patiently wait to live in freedom another 6 months to fornicate again. I don't think we need to go into the details of the system.
Okay, I'm just skimming the rest of it with my eyes, and let's see.
It's a solution proposed here to provide healthy alternatives to society's dysfunctions. Change our goal of profit above all else, combined with this hypersexualized society, sex sells, to a universal goal of happy, healthy families and communities. Implement multiple initiatives such as early education, re-education, health, counseling, infrastructure, community support, etc. Provide appropriate role models and appropriately designed avenues for young masculine expression. Provide easy access to relationship information and counseling. Provide avenues of healthy interaction for young people so they are not learning about relationships through online hookup websites as if they are dating or matchmaking sites.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Stacy. So basically the solution, like you say, it's not simple. All right. Relationship, avenues of healthy interaction. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but if you'd like to view it, it's agora-ilp.org/ideas/779 if you'd like to read more, since it was skimmed, and we can refer back to it. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. All right, Kat has her hand up. Go ahead, Kat.
You're muted.
I had too many hands up. I still have too many hands up. I can't get it down. Oh well. I have worked with developers, and I know developers go into the category of just being on their computers and playing games, but they're not psychos, actually. So I think somebody who's going to go out and kill just because they haven't had sex, that's like there's something wrong with them. I mean, they're psychos. They're psychotic. And they should get, like, mental help. I don't think a guy would go crazy for not having sex, but then I'm not a guy, so I don't know that for sure. But I think also maybe there should be, like, I mean, now a lot of guys who can't meet a girl or don't want to meet a girl, they get these robot type, mannequin type things, you know, so I think that could be offered instead of, like, real women. And that's just my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Kat. So, sex with robots is a very interesting topic, to say the least. I myself personally think that if that is a real contraption that exists and if it's safe?
It is real. They
Is?
sell them, actually. I mean, they're not so robotic, but they have all the functionality that a real woman has, more or less, except maybe interaction, I would say. Some of them are programmed to speak, but they're not entirely robotic. It's like an early version of like a a robot, but they're more or less dolls. They're called dolls, I think, sex dolls.
Okay, well, if they exist, if they're safe to use, then I think people should have the freedom to use them if they want to. All right, Stacey, what do you think?
Okay, I've seen a program on those dolls, and the most amazingly wonderful thing about them is that if you use too much pressure or get violent with them, they turn off. Which I think is
I didn't
fabulous.
know that. That's great.
I'm sure it's just this like one particular manufacturer, but that somebody thought of that because, yeah, that I don't want to go there on the details of that, but that's fabulous. And then also, I wanted to say in the Incel article, when I read about how it started for the women found out that the men started their incel groups. And so the incel women who cannot find men to have sex with, but they can have sex, started showing up in the male incel groups and saying, hey, me too, look. And the men actually were nasty to them and didn't take advantage. So I think clearly there's more going on than just, and somebody said it's because the involuntary celibate men want to have sex with these beautiful young women that they see parading around in the pictures and in school, and they've got everything perfect. They're not going to settle for anything less than that, and they shouldn't have to.
All right, wow, that is fascinating. Kat?
There's something else. Oh, there's something called, like if people are desperate for sex, they go out to parks or like nature places and have sex with other strangers or random people in their cars. I think it's called dogging. So that's another alternative for them, I think.
Stacey?
I'm not sure if that would be an alternative if it is a fact that these people are so different that no other people will have sex with them. I think that they're kind of saying that. I don't know that that's true, but that I think the argument from them would be, I'm not going to go there. Nobody's going to have sex with me there either.
All right, Kat, your hand is still up. Do you have another comment?
That could be true or it couldn't. I think the people that go to that extreme of going out are probably just desperate for sex from anybody, so I don't think it would matter.
Yes.
I think though we're talking about a group of people who are incredible introverts, I don't think that they would be attracted to, they'd rather kill somebody than go to an area like that to find sex, is what it sounds like.
Okay, so I noticed that in the article that Stacey quoted, the word whore was used. And earlier I brought up the controversy of the word prostitute. I think the word whore has even more negative connotation, along with the word harlot. And I'm wondering, So maybe those words used to be standard, but then they fell out of use because of all the stigma, and then prostitute became standard, but then some people want to take that out of use. I was just submitting that for comment, but Stacy, go ahead.
A young man that I know was using the word in regular conversation with his girlfriend, including the B word. And when I brought up that I thought that that was offensive, there was argument from all over the place that, why would you bring that up? Was it really that bad? And how many times was it? And was it to her? And was he calling her a whore, or was he just saying whore? Was he calling her a bitch or just saying bitch? And I'm like, oh my God, how often do you have to say that before it's wrong? How do you say that, bring that up in conversation where it's okay? What is a nice conversation with your girlfriend where you say bitch and whore? Oh my goodness, you caught me a pet peeve for me. That's enough.
Wow, okay, thanks for sharing, Stacy. That reminds me of something else a little relevant. I know about a sort of sex teacher, sex healer, sex therapist, something like that. And she likes using the word whore in a positive kind of way, like, oh, like, you know, women need to, like, you can embrace your inner whore, you know, things like that. And she wants, and she has a workshop with that in the title, like Unleash Your Whore or something like that. And she said that some people approached her and were like, what is this? Like, you can't say that. That's, you know, this is not right. But she defends it, and well, it says that it's a way of empowerment or something like that. So what I'm saying is that word might be really offensive for a lot of people, but there are also a few people who really like it. But I think in this case, the word might be something that is like generally off limits to men. And if women want to use it for themselves or for very close friends or something like that, like, then, you know, they can. But anyway, what do you think, Stacy?
Okay, I was just at a meeting for an Indigenous LGBTQ gentleman, and understood that, okay, so we often see LGBTQ, and the Q stands for queer, and he explained that originally queer was used in a derogatory fashion by people towards gays. So in order to take back the term and make it not derogatory, they're using it. So that brings me to what you say. So if we could do the same thing and say, take back that word and use it in non-derogatory fashion until it no longer has the derogatory term. However, I understand that as soon as one term is normalized, somebody will come up with another term to make it derogatory.
Yeah, the juggling of appropriate and inappropriate words feels to me like it's just a continuous cycle. Kay.
Thanks. Yes, I was gonna mention in reference to I was just talking with a group of friends and thinking just the word of whore, that they also add, if you really like pictures, then you are a picture whore. If you like a lot of food, then you could possibly be seen as a food whore. So they're just almost taking and making it seem like, oh, but I like this to an excessive amount. So that's how I've been seeing it more, or a friend has called me a meme whore because I love memes. I think that's the majority of the pictures on my phone currently. And I also thought of just taking, Stacy, with your message of, or the note of how they've added queer now as not having the negative feeling like it did before. I was thinking, yes, that's true. Just kind of taking what it was and making it into something else. Same thing with racial slurs. Now you hear certain racial slurs in rap music, and I remember Jay-Z going on Oprah show when it was still on, and they had their two sides where Oprah was saying, that's a horrible word, it should die, it has so much heavy history. And Jay-Z's like, oh no, I'm saying it because we're making it into something different, so it doesn't have that horrible weight on it before. Now it's more of a camaraderie or completely different, so it's not going to be what it used to be before. They still couldn't see, they still disagree, but I understood where he was coming from. So it is interesting how we're not going to avoid it, we're just going to put it out there and make it something different. So which can be positive, I think. Thanks.
Yes, very good points, Kay. Thank you so much. So I think that, all right, some people really hate some words and other people see it differently. But I think that it would be best to just, instead of attaching so much judgment to a word, to try to pay attention to the person and their intentions. There can be some judgment with words, but I think too much is not good. I myself struggle with this because I love words. I love learning etymology, and I like specificity, like this, understanding the nuances of different words in the English language. So sometimes when people say things to me, I like take them literally, because I pay attention to the words instead of just the context and the person and their communicated nonverbal intentions and things like that. So anyway, I'm just talking out loud. It's a good reminder for me to remember to do that in my life. Yeah, and the word whore is also used in rap music. But I don't think it's used in a good way, but I don't know, maybe there's some rap music out there that does use it in a good way. And also maybe it's a matter of perspective. All right, so I wanted to say that I think that I do agree with Stacy's idea that she's written. It is the one about addressing the problem of involuntary celibacy with wide changing goals, meeting needs, focusing on happy, healthy family instead of profit. I think that's all a good idea. So I'll add it to my ideological profile in Agora. But I also look forward to learning more about the details about those ideas and like narrowing down, okay, what about this part, that part, this part? It is really good to have the overall vision. So thank you for sharing that, Stacy, today. Okay, any other comments, questions on anything related to these types of things we've been discussing?
I don't know, it's like, I grew up with like Madonna, and Madonna was like, in the beginning, she was really out there. What was shocking back then during the 80s is not so shocking now, but she was out there to sort of shock people. But I noticed in her past that I think she, I don't know, she worked with sex, or but I think she was molested or something like that. But I noticed that people who were molested are a lot more sexually out there. Usually they're not so like ashamed of their bodies, or you know, and I don't know why. I mean, I'd like to be less like, I mean, I think a lot of times, especially nowadays, with all the, you know, pictures, like young girls think they have to look perfect and wear a lot of makeup and take pictures of themselves to be admired by guys online. You know, and I think that's sort of like a bad thing, because, you know, eventually they'll get older and not look as pretty as they did when they were 20. You know, none of us, I think, look as good as we were when we were 20. But I think there should be some movement to make us love ourselves, love our bodies, no matter what they look like. You know, like positive reinforcement about our self-image. Because I think nowadays, you know, if you're overweight or you're fat or you don't look like a model, you know, there's repercussions in society. And I don't think that's good. I mean, nobody can be perfect. And there seems like this ideal of perfection, that you have to reach perfection, which I think stresses out a lot of young women and older women too, I feel it, at my age. Like, I have to look young for interviews, I have to wear makeup, look as good as I can. You know, it's stressful. I mean, both if you're older or younger. And that's it.
Thank you, Kat. Yes. Interesting. And I do agree. Stacy?
Okay, a lot of good points there, Kat. So it's not even just normal ideals. If you look at the bodies and the pictures that we're shown that we're supposed to emulate, and that's what will bring love to our lives, they're superhero bodies. Those are exaggerations beyond human achievement. And people are getting plastic surgery to be made to look like literal superheroes. And they can take a good picture, but you see them in real life and you can't even imagine that somebody wants to look like that they paid money to have that done to their body. We're messed up. We're a very psychopathic culture. It needs to be fixed. And you had asked about why people who have been sexually abused when they were young are kind of hypersexual, and I would say it's in the training. And there is a certain amount of power in that knowledge for those people that they then can portray and use. I mean, it may not be an expression of power, it may just be an expression of training. Yeah, I just throw that out there. I don't know. Thanks.
No, I think they're just not hung up about sex like the rest of us are anymore.
Okay. So I also am very frustrated by, for example, women in cartoons or video games that have impossibly large breasts and impossibly tiny waists. And I look and I'm like, come on, no woman looks like that. Like, what is not fair? I do think it is natural for people to want to, you know, put idealized kind of looking people on like television and movies, just because people enjoy looking at beauty, and people are more likely to see a movie if there's a really handsome hunk or a really hot woman, you know, like in the stars, you know. But this artificial changing, doctoring photographs, changing the body, I think it can get questionable then. And I was approached for modeling before, but the photographer said that I'd need to whiten my teeth. And so I did have my teeth whitened, and my teeth used to be more yellow, but it wasn't because I smoked or drank. It was just natural and genetic. I just had naturally yellow teeth. So this is an artificial beautification thing. And if you look at older movies, you'll see that the actors don't have really white teeth. They have more yellow teeth. Even so, in the movie Gone with the Wind, Scarlett O'Hara has like yellow looking teeth. And I remember looking at that and thinking, interesting how standards have changed. Nowadays, nobody would put somebody in the movie with yellow teeth. So I'm kind of wondering, like, like what if we start like changing the standards and expectations? Okay, Kay, can you help me out? I don't know who raised their hand first.
Next was, I know I came up last, so Stacy.
Actually, Kay is next.
All right.
Really? Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Okay.
I thought I had.
Thank you both. Kay's next.
Okay. So I was going to touch on, yes, it's so crazy how things are. I personally don't even bother admiring the pictures too much on magazine covers, because I know they've been reshaped and things have been removed, and it's not even what that person looks like. I'll just go, okay, is there any article that interests me at all? And there is someone that I do follow on Instagram, and I don't know her history completely, but her Instagram is just dedicated to saying, as an influencer, these are the things that we do to make our stomachs look flat or our bums look more plump, or how we hide certain features. And I look at everything that she's doing, and I look at these influencers, I go, yep, they're pretty much doing all of these. And it just makes you, but like also, Stacy, as you mentioned, people are getting the plastic surgery to try to look more like these things. So I don't even know what could happen, because in the beginning, I don't know if any of you have Snapchat. On Snapchat, they had a very obvious filter, a dog face, and then they have other filters that will give you eyelashes or higher cheekbones or fuller lips or perfect complexion. And it got to the point to where you really didn't know what someone looked like. So now Snapchat has this feature that if you choose to use one of these filters, they're actually going to advertise which one you're using, where it wasn't like that before. You were still left guessing, does that person really have that look? So I do see where it does give people an unrealistic view of beauty, but it doesn't seem like it's going to stop, and apparently still sell. So you wonder if people stopped using the filters or things like that weren't available, maybe that would help. But since people still do it, it almost just continues to feed this unrealistic view. So I would almost wonder what would need to happen. The one thing I did notice, which I thought was interesting, is I was in Target one day and I was walking down the makeup aisle. So they'll show individuals, and if you look in the corner of the picture, it now says an untouched picture. And you can tell the picture doesn't look as perfect, but I like it. So I wonder how long it'll be before it flows into major magazine covers. Thanks.
Thank you, Kay. So that was a picture like a model for clothing or something that it said untouched. What was that product?
It was in the makeup aisle. So there was a lady that was advertising, I don't know if it was an eyeshadow or just maybe it was Maybelline, but I haven't seen it or I haven't checked for if it's also noted in the clothing section, but there was a very noticeable line in the makeup section. So yeah, check it out.
Okay, well, cool. Thank you for sharing, Kay. Stacy.
Okay, so back to the movie thing. Not just yellow teeth or not perfect teeth, but the men and women had very different bodies. You know, they'd go out there on the beach and it was just kind of a nice, normally muscled man. It wasn't the crazy, everybody has to work out like a few times a week kind of thing. And women were voluptuous and soft and had guts and stuff. And we've changed our ideals to the superhero thing. It's but when I visited New Zealand and I watched their TV, they hadn't gotten that. And it was crazy to see normal people with bad teeth and they didn't look like models. And at first it was weird. And then I thought that is refreshing and we should have that. We should get rid of all of this edited stuff that we've got. And I hope that, like, I think whoever was saying that we should have this lashback coming, that people are hopefully going to just get saturated with the idea of having to live up to this and just change the ideals completely and do it quickly and we'll be done with it. That's all. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Stacy. It is fascinating to speculate on how things might change. Kat.
Well, I've noticed, like, on dating sites, like, some of the men have, like, commented that some women use too much filters, so the person they actually meet is not the person in the pictures. You know, so there have been complaints about that. And also with the men, you know, they use filters. And so I think, you know, it can be strange like that. And there's also filters on Zoom, I think, or Teams. I'm not sure which, where you can add makeup to your face and everything. Which I find kind of funny. I used it once, but I also feel like for job interviews, I've had job interviews where a lot of the times the interviewees have been young guys, like young programmers or something. And I feel I'm not going to get this job because they want like a young 20-something attractive girl. You know, I mean, they really shouldn't be prejudiced in that sense. Or not prejudiced, can't think of the word. But they shouldn't discriminate, that's what I mean. But they do. They do. I was once on a train where two guys were talking about hiring a girl, and then one said, we should hire her, she's hot. You know, and I was a bit shocked. I wanted to say something to one of them, but I just stayed quiet. But that's often the case. You know, it's like some companies, especially one that I last worked for, not the last one, but the one before last, where I was a contractor, but I was a bit hurt that I wasn't invited to be in the picture. It was only the young, pretty people that was invited to be in the pictures, the company pictures that would be on the website. You know what I mean? So I think that's not a positive thing. It's not a good thing.
All right, thank you, Kat. I wanted to add a comment, but Stacy left the room for a second, and I wanted to respond to something she put in the chat. So I'll wait until I would like to wait until she's back. So if there's anyone else who has a comment, otherwise I can talk about filters.
I like what she said in the chat. She said we should have blind hires. You have to hire an interview and skills. Can't see them physically. Yeah,
That
I
would be
believe that
nice.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did want to respond to that because there are some types of jobs that you need to be able to see the person, but other types of jobs, it really doesn't matter. And there are blind hires for players in symphony, in professional musicians. They will play their instrument, but it will be behind a curtain so that the people hearing can only listen and they can't see the person. They can't see whether it's a man or a woman playing, and they just go by how it sounds, which I think is great. It's a great idea. And, you know, it's kind of embarrassing if we're at the point where we need to do that kind of thing, like interview someone from behind a curtain and you can just, hear them, you can't see what they look like. It's kind of embarrassing. Like what? Like really? Like, is this what humans really have to do to get around, just prioritizing like good looks and having someone attractive around in the office? Oh, so embarrassing. But you know what? Like if we have to, then we have to. And then maybe people will change their ways when they find out what this has come to. Kat.
Yeah, well, I think now age discrimination is becoming a real issue. I mean, I've been told by people my age, just give up. Don't try to find a job. You're going to have a hard time finding a job at 53 in IT. And you might have to be satisfied with working at the local Morrison's or something, the local supermarket. And I'm just thinking, going from making the kind of money I'm used to making minimum wage, is going to be very hard. But they're probably right. I might have to get to that point of just, lowering my expectations, I guess. Because, I mean, it's been 9 months that I haven't found a job yet, and I'm thinking, part of it, I think, is because of the pandemic, and COVID and Brexit. But I also think maybe there's a little, at least a few times it's been because of my age. I can almost see that, like when two young guys interview me. I'm pretty sure it was ageism. So, because I can almost tell, even before the interview, if I see two guys interviewing me, two younger guys, I won't get the job. And it's always been the case so far.
I'm sorry to hear that, Kat. And with the field of technology related work, I can see how ageism would be very probable in that case. But I also wanted to make another comment about filtering and editing pictures. I do have all right, so I'm not on Facebook, but I do have an Instagram account. And I really enjoy playing with the editing tools on pictures. And it can be a picture of myself or a picture of a flower or a building, a statue, anything, like not just a person, but anything. I like it. It gives me pleasure to beautify things. It makes me very happy. I enjoy doing this. And I can see how when filters and edits are used so much, it can set unrealistic expectations for beauty. But at the same time, you know, you might see in a magazine spread, like a full page advertisement of just this person like in a cool pose, and there's like a fantasy scene around them, and like this, they're in this digital and digitally created environment where it's clearly a fake photo, but it still looks really cool and really beautiful. So we know that it's not real, but we also are fascinated by its aesthetics. So I would not want to do away with editing completely. I think that there can be a middle ground. And I think maybe the thing that would best help is to mindfully manage our own expectations and our own relationship to the pictures and videos that we see. Or we could also, whenever we post something on Instagram, say, this picture has been edited, like, you know, like add a little description there.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, what? We could start a trend with that. What?
And so you have 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So in closing, I think that gives me an idea to add an idea to Agora in the shaping culture. Oh, yeah. Okay, so my time's up. Kat, do you have something else? All right. In that case, we will move to closing. We examined multiple ideas, but I'm going to skip over the second voting. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be fair. All right, so we will vote again. If anyone has changed their position from our discussion on whether the Nordic style of decriminalizing prostitution is a good thing or a bad thing, raise your hand. I'll just make it simple. Raise your, yeah, you just vote, click on reactions and click yes if you agree with the idea or no if you disagree. Yay! Okay, this is great. Thank you. All right, so you can take your vote down if you want to. So now we will move into closing comments. I'll go last, but is there someone who wants to go first? Otherwise, I'll call on somebody.
I can go. Great conversation. Covered a lot of good stuff, and I really like the initiative that you're talking about doing. I really, really hope that you work on that. I will definitely listen if you bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. This is really exciting. I'm just excited. All right, Kay.
Yes, that is awesome. I want to echo Stacy. I think that would be something really great. And it seemed like you thought of it just at that moment. So that's pretty cool. Your face just lit up. I enjoyed today's topic. We did touch on a lot of things, and it just feels like we could have had so much more to cover as well. But just a really good topic. I'm looking forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, Kay. I did come up with it just then, which is really fun. I love it when things like that happen, moments of inspiration. Kat, any closing comments?
I think we need to redefine what beauty means. It's not just on the outside, it's on the inside too. And I think it was a great topic. And I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Kat. I agree, true beauty comes from within. And it's not just a cliche, it's really true. Or the more important kind of beauty, at least. So I'm going to, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, it's like I had a cat, you know, not this cat, but my last cat. It had 3 legs, and some people were shocked by that. They didn't like it, and I thought he was the most beautiful cat in the world, despite not having normal 4 legs, you know. So I that's just perspective, I think.
Yeah. Stacy said in the chat that she also had a 3-legged cat, and also that we need to educate ourselves, like we used to say about movies. It's just a movie. Yes. All right. So we went to a lot of different topics at this meeting, and in the opening notes I write that we value staying on topic, but today is an exception because we exhausted the original topic pretty early on, so I was okay with changing topics. I hope you all also were okay with changing topics and exploring other things. I am going to clean the idea that I wrote in Agora because there were typos. Sorry, I was finishing it this morning. So I'll clean it, and then I'll invite you to examine the idea and you can support it. I'll also write up the other idea about the notation, this picture has been edited in social media posts. And also I will take a look at Stacy's idea and support it and invite people here to support that one as well. All right, so thank you again, everyone, for coming and for sharing your ideas and your insights. The next meeting will be Sunday, July 11th. So we're second and fourth Sundays of the month now. Second Sunday in July is July 11th. And the topic is to be determined, but I really hope Stacy does present something related to the things that she brought up today in this meeting. So anyway, once again, thank you all for coming. Have a good day.